Shut that thing off! What do you think you're doing?
What'd you say?
What do you think you're doing?
I'm turning this into a valuable product. You know, furniture, part of a building, maybe even some paper too. It's all stuff you use.
Hold on. What about the ecological value to the ecosystem here?
Sorry, I see economic value.
I see ecological.
Economic?
Ecological. Ugh.
Hey, you two, stop your arguing. Can't you see that you're both right? We all need different plants for different reasons, for, well, different uses. It's all about plant diversities and, well, diversities of our value system. Now, you two need to work together to decode that. Now, go get some answers as you head
Into the outdoors!
Hey, you squirrels, stop chewing on those acorns.
The outdoors. Grab your gear and let's explore as we discover the wild outdoors. Science, discovery, it's what we do. Into the outdoors, now what you waiting for? Into the outdoors, it's fun when we explore. Science, discovery, it's way too cool. You can make our earth a bright and better place by joining us in this wide open space. Into the outdoors.
Plant diversities? All I see are trees in a forest. Not plants, trees. Big and beautiful. And all that equates to timber and economic value.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold your thought, lumberman. First, let's define a plant. Any guesses?
All those little flowering things and bushes down there?
Kinda, but you forgot all the big ones.
Those aren't plants, those are trees.
Trees are plants. Think about it. Trees are living things, right? And all living things are either a plant or an animal. Now, if it breathes, eats other living things, eliminates, reproduces breathing young, it's an animal. Makes sense? But if it grows in one place, is germinated from seeds or roots, and grows by making its own food from abiotic factors using photosynthesis, ta-da, it's a plant. Therefore, all these trees are technically and clearly plants.
Are you trying to confuse me with all this science? Because I thought we were trying to figure out why we need plants.
You're right, but I think defining that's a job for Mission Control. Are you there? Come in, Mission Control.
I'll take it from here, you guys. You just enjoy the trees or the plants or the whole forest. Plant diversity decoder coming online now. Whoa, I guess there's more to this than we figured. All kinds of values are coming in from multiple plant sources.
Economic value, economic value, economic value.
And that includes forest plants, such as timber products and agricultural crops, fruits, vegetables, and grains. They're all plants, and they all have a huge economic value. We couldn't live without them.
Not so fast. There are a lot of other values to consider. Here we are. Ecological value. There's a lot tied to this one.
Ecologically, the forest helps support all the biotic and abiotic factors in an ecosystem. Here's how it works. The forest provides habitat and food for almost every living thing in the forest. The biotic parts, from big stuff like deer and bears to thousands of tiny little creatures we might not even see.
Then there's the value of the abiotic parts.
We don't often consider those non-living parts of the environment that plants help, such as the soil, water, and air. Did you know that most of the oxygen we breathe comes from plants? Yeah,
They take in carbon dioxide and give off oxygen during photosynthesis.
Oh, I love being out here. I guess there's some things that are bigger than the both of us. Those are what are called the social values.
Yeah, like us loving being out here. I think they call that aesthetic value.
Whatever it is, it definitely makes me feel good. Oh, and then there's hiking and bird watching and my fishing. Those must be all the recreational values.
Now you're cooking. And I bet some of that recreation is also part of the cultural value.
Huh?
You know, like hunting and gathering food from the wilds or our gardens. It can even be a family cultural thing, passed down from one generation to the next.
And I hate to admit it, but there's also the educational value of connecting plants with everything they support. Oh, life. And I'm starting to get the picture about photosynthesis and all that other neat science stuff. But it sure gets us to thinking about the different values of different plants and trees and how they impact different people.
Josh, I thought you were learning. Trees are plants.
Don't worry, they'll work it out. If you want to learn more about why we need trees and other plants, log on to intotheoutdoors.org.
Don't go away. There's more Into the Outdoors.
And now back into the outdoors.
Oh, you're back. All this diversity in plants and how we use plants wouldn't be worth beans if plants couldn't reproduce, right? Did you know that many types of plants depend on other living creatures for help in their reproduction? It's all about the birds and the bees. More specifically, the ones that work here, insect pollinators. You've heard the old saying, as busy as a bee? Here's how it all works. Many plants produce fruit that holds their reproductive seeds. You know, like a tomato, apple, or a peach. That fruit or seed begins as a flower. The flower contains a stigma, which is the female reproductive part. But before it can turn into fruit, the stigma needs to receive male pollen grains from the stamen. And the transfer of that reproductive pollen is where these living pollinators play their vital role. About 80% of plants require cross-pollination from one plant to another. And most plants require biotic pollination from living creatures. Insects are important pollinators, especially bees and butterflies. They don't intentionally pollinate. It just happens as they feed on the nectar and pollen from the flowers. All that flapping and buzzing dislodges pollen grains that stick to their hairy legs. And when they visit another flowering plant, some of the male pollen on their body gets stuck on the stigma. And presto, you get a pollinated flower that will now begin growing into a fruit or seed. If you think about it, those plants and pollinators share what's called a symbiotic relationship. The insects get food from the plants, while in return helping the plants pollinate and reproduce. Some types of plants called legumes have a different kind of symbiotic relationship. It happens below ground and plays a vital role in the process of nitrogen fixation, with the help of bacteria. These little legumes form a symbiotic relationship or beneficial partnership with certain bacteria that convert atmospheric nitrogen into a form that plants can use. This Rhizobium bacterium enters the roots of the legume and forms root nodules or bumps on the roots of the soybean. Inside the nodule, these tiny bacteria convert atmospheric nitrogen into ammonia. Ammonia is then converted by other soil bacteria into forms of nitrogen the plants can use, like nitrate and nitrite. These bacteria need an oxygen-free environment to do their work. The legume scoops up any oxygen that could slow down the work of the bacteria. So the legume gives the bacteria food with their roots and the right oxygen-free conditions inside the root nodule. In turn, the bacteria give the plant usable nitrogen so it can grow and reproduce. Some of that extra nitrogen even makes its way back into the soil surrounding the plant. Even with all the diversity that plants have in symbiotic relationships to help them reproduce and grow, they have one relationship that's universal with all plants, and that's their relationship with sunlight, water, and air. Those are the building blocks that plants need to grow using their incredible process of photosynthesis. Now there's one of the prime secrets to life.
Where?
All around us, silly. These plants, every single one of them, are using inorganic chemicals to make organic compounds. That's the foundation of life.
Are you sure?
I don't know.
It's called photosynthesis. They use a combination of sunlight and a few chemicals to produce, well, life. See, those plants take in water, H2O, and carbon dioxide from the air, CO2. Chloroplasts in the leaves, the green stuff, use sunlight to convert those chemicals into sugar and oxygen.
I get it now. It makes sense. Two chemicals that are in a reaction, which create compounds that feed the plant and give us oxygen to breathe. Another process that's constantly taking place here in the forest is the water cycle.
Water moves through plants by transpiration, or the evaporation of water at the surface of leaves and stems. Plants absorb water into their roots from moisture in the soil. Water travels up through cells in their stems and branches, then exits the plant through pores in their leaves. This water vapor collects in the atmosphere, which can form clouds. And when the clouds become saturated, rain falls to the ground, and the process begins all over again.
To study all this cool plant science in your classroom, go to intotheoutdoors.org. Coming up, how many diverse ways can we use this plant's kernel? You'll be surprised.
Don't go away. There's more Into the Outdoors. And now back into the outdoors.
This one little kernel doesn't look like much, does it? But with some help from science and technology, I think you'll be surprised about what this kernel of corn can do in 1 year, and all the diverse ways it affects our lives almost every day. Let's go plant some corn! Our journey begins right here by planting our one kernel in the springtime. Today's corn farmers use techniques to get more output with less input. For instance, this no-till planting we're doing means we can plant without the multi-step process of plowing, disking, and seeding the soil. Planting with low-till or no-till means not turning over and breaking apart the soil, and that reduces soil erosion and topsoil loss from wind and water. Plus, it uses less time and tractor fuel to plant. The end result is increased conservation in land, water, and energy resources. All that using half the fertilizer while also producing 68% more corn than farmers did 30 years ago.
I think your grandfather would be amazed at the technology, how we now can plant without a steering wheel. It's called auto steer, and it has auto shut-off so that we don't plant too much corn, we don't overlap. It knows when to turn off, and it saves a lot of the inputs and waste, so we don't have near the waste that we used to have years ago when your grandfather farmed. My brothers and my philosophy is we're only here for a short time, and we want to leave the land better than our grandpa left it to us, and for our children and grandchildren to have it better.
My grandpa would be shocked by all the corn you guys are producing.
Yes, that very same bushel of corn takes 30% less land today to produce than it did 30 years ago. We're able to use less fertilizer, less fuel, less water, and less crop protection products than we had in the past.
So you're like checking all the environmental boxes.
Well, you know, farmers are conservationists and they want to do the right thing. And this environment is extremely important to us because this is our livelihood.
Next time I see a stubble field, it's never gonna look the same.
Well, you can rest assured you'll know why that stubble is there. It's out there protecting the topsoil.
By the fall, our one kernel has grown into a corn stalk with an ear full of kernels. About 800 of them per ear. And once they're harvested, it's onward to where these kernels go and all the diverse ways we use them. Most of this corn, and we're talking billions of bushels, is used for livestock feed. Farmers feed it to their dairy cows, beef cattle, hogs, and chickens because it's high in carbs and protein. Of course, us humans also use it. When's the last time you ate something that used corn oil, cornstarch, corn bran, cornmeal, or corn syrup? How about pizza, soda, cornbread, corn dogs, corn flakes, graham crackers, ketchup, Pop-Tarts, Oreos? Besides fueling animals and humans, corn also helps fuel our cars by using the engineering at this ethanol plant. Time to fire up the chemistry and biology parts of your brain. Come on, let's go.
Corn comes in from trucks off the farm, and then it starts from a process of taking a kernel of corn and narrowing it down into either a grit or a flour, but eventually sending it over to our ethanol process.
As soon as the corn flour entered the plant, we added hot water and we gelatinized it, and then we added an enzyme. That enzyme is breaking down the starch molecule into complex sugars called dextrins. Now that the cook process is complete, we have to start cooling things down because we're going to be adding yeast. So we're going to cool down that hot mash to about 92 degrees, optimal temperature for the yeast.
So we've converted the starch from corn into complex sugars in our cook process. We cooled it down, and now we've added yeast. And now we're fermenting, and they're consuming those simple sugars and creating ethanol and CO2.
So all these living things help make ethanol.
Absolutely.
From start to finish, we're going to go from 0 alcohol up to about 15% ethanol. Now that fermentation's complete, we need to separate out that alcohol from all the water and unfermentable solids left remaining.
It's something that's called a DDG, or a dry distiller's grains. That's the other part of the ethanol process that not a lot of people know about, but that all goes into the feed market. So things to feed cattle, it's a high protein product that also gets sent throughout the world. So not only is corn used to make ethanol and reduce greenhouse gases, but we also have a mill side. And so that's used for food products and industrial uses. There's so many things that corn can go into, from breadings and batters on fish and chicken. It goes into beverages, it goes into protein bars. Caroline, another product that we make, and really that goes beyond our borders of Wisconsin, we touch the world with this product. It's a mix between corn, soy, and fortified with vitamins and minerals, and it goes all throughout the world to feed children in third world countries.
All this might look like creating ethanol uses more energy than it produces, but not so. For every unit of energy input, producing ethanol outputs 2.3 units of energy. Who would have imagined all the ways science and technology have helped us diversify all the ways we use corn? It even helped keep the cost of the pump down. Now that's fuel for thought. And oh yeah, from those 800 kernels we grew from one, we still have one left over to begin this whole cycle again. Want to learn more science about corn? Log on to intotheoutdoors.org.
Coming up, growing plants without dirt. No joke. Don't go away. There's more Into the Outdoors. And now back into the outdoors.
See this operation? This is called aquaculture. Aqua means water, and culture means to grow. And this operation combines diverse ways to grow, well, edible plants, and also something else for the dinner table. Any guesses? I'm ready for some work.
So you're the new aquaponic guy.
Yup.
I don't know if you're gonna need that just yet.
So what are we dealing with here?
We raise the fish, we feed the fish, and the waste goes through a series of filters, and then the bacteria and microorganisms break down the fish waste into nutrients that the plants can uptake. So we raise the fish in order to feed the plants.
Time out. What kind of fish are these and what do they eat?
These are tilapia fish, and we actually feed them a fish feed that's been formulated for them. The fish feed is mainly fish meal, soybean meal, and then vitamins and nutrients that help to keep the fish healthy.
Wait, soy is a vegetable, and I thought fish eat meat like worms.
Well, tilapia are actually omnivores, so they eat meat and vegetables.
Omnivore? I'm an omnivore. Good job, guys. How fast do they grow?
They grow from about 5 grams to 454 grams in about a year. There's 454 grams in 1 pound.
I've got this science experiment about how fish respond to eating different foods. Can I try my experiment?
Sounds kind of fishy to me, but in the name of science, that's okay.
Yes, fish on.
Hey, you want a piece of this? Whoa, mine!
Wow, you got one! Get him out!
we got one.
Nice, that's huge.
Woo! Yeah!
Nice job, Jacob.
Woo, I got one.
So here's the fish feed, Jacob. You get a full cup for the fish.
Did you guys see George? Where'd he go?
I'm pretty sure I learned in biology class that if you eat something, it comes out the other end. And this is some small tank, and yeah, and there's a lot of them, so...
The fish waste gets sucked out right down the middle, and then it goes out into a tank which actually filters it out.
What do you do with it?
It gets taken outside and gets fertilized on the ground, and then the stuff that doesn't get goes through the system and actually provides fertilizer for the plants.
You mean those plants?
So this is the swirl separator. It takes out the fish waste. Here's the upflow tank where the bacteria break it down into the nutrients, and this is the degassing tank which lets off the gas before it goes into the plant beds. So this is where the plants start, from a seed planted in a Rockwool cube.
Why Rockwool? Why can't it be soil?
Because the soil wouldn't work in the aquaponic system, you need something that has a lot more air, and so the Rockwool is a combination of the lava rock heated up.
Can I see one of them?
Sure. See the root coming out of it already?
Yeah. So when they get bigger, you just put them back there, but they keep on getting bigger.
That's the whole idea, so you can eat them. So the fish water comes into these grow beds where the plants actually float on these styrofoam rafts, and then the roots dangle in the water, taking up the nutrients.
So why don't they just live in regular soil?
Because the soil can harbor disease and pests that the aquaponics system doesn't, so then we don't have to try to fight disease and pests with sprays. So this is where we transplant the plants from the seedling bed, and we start them off little here, and as they grow, we push them farther and farther down so that we harvest from that end and plant from this end, so it makes it less labor intensive. And as you can see there, we have different varieties growing as well.
And then it gets taller and taller and taller.
And part of that is the different varieties, because some are green, some are taller, some are red, and so there's over 70 different varieties of lettuce plants. And so like the plants really help take out the nutrients for the fish. They filter the water, and so without one or the other, the system doesn't work.
So that's a symbiotic relationship between both of them?
That's exactly right.
This doesn't look like my grandma's greenhouse. It's way too much technology.
We've incorporated a lot of different technologies into this greenhouse to make it more efficient. So we have LED lights that put out just blue and red lights, and then also the curtains and the fans all control the temperature to get the most optimum growing condition for the lettuce, and it also helps us grow year-round.
There's a lot of lettuce here. How much do you make a year?
One of these grow beds is 100 foot long, 8 foot wide, and there's 1,800 plants in one grow bed.
Wow, that's a lot. There's so much science and technology in this operation. Mission Control, I think we need some help sorting out all this science. I got a dinner date to catch. Let's go.
And finally, whether it's corn or aquaculture, technology is giving us more diverse ways of growing and using plants, like never before. Into the